Time for another grammatically correct production from GrammarOnline.org.
Alright, welcome to lesson 10.1. This is quotation marks in dialogue, and we're going to be looking at when to use quotation marks for different types of dialogue, where it falls in the sentence, and how that makes sense. The next video in 10.2 is going to deal with quotation marks versus like italics or underlining, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Right now we're just focused on dialogue. So let's get started. If we lived in a graphic novel, and that would be great and everything, because graphic novels are the best, this is how we would show our dialogue, though. Our dialogue would be encapsulated in speech bubbles, because we don't, and when we're writing things that people say, whether it's in fiction or we're retelling a conversation, we need to know how to punctuate dialogue with quotation marks, and that can get a little tricky depending on where it falls within our sentence. So we're going to look at some examples of different places where your dialogue can fall and how to punctuate that. So one of the easiest ways to include dialogue is to have a quotation at the end of your sentence. And with this, your ending punctuation is going to go inside of the quotes, and that doesn't change whether it's a statement, a question, or an exclamation. If you look at the first one for the statement, it says, Allie said, I'm going to the dance tonight. You'll notice you have a comma where it says Allie said, and then your entire quote, I'm going to the dance tonight, is right there. It's all inside the quotes, and it starts with a capital letter. Obviously, I would be capitalized on its own anyway, but you want to make sure no matter what that first word is of your quote, it would be capitalized as well. For your question, Nori asked, will you be going to the dance tonight? Again, we have a comma setting that off, and then we have our entire quote within the quotation marks and our ending punctuation inside as well. Same thing for the exclamation. Chloe shouted, comma, outside, of course. I didn't highlight my other one. What was I thinking? There we go. So our commas are all outside. Then we have a space, quote, I'm going to the dance tonight. And so that entire quote goes inside the quotation marks, as does my ending punctuation. So no matter what, when I have a quotation at the end of the sentence, they're going to follow that format. Alright? So again, pretty straightforward, nice and easy. Let's move on. If I have a quote at the beginning of the sentence, though, my punctuation is still going to go inside of the quotes, but there's going to be something slightly different about that whole comma business. So, for a statement, I'm going to the dance tonight, said Allie. Again, I'm saying the same thing, I've just flipped it. My quote's coming first. I still have my capital letter I. I have my comma, but this time it's inside instead of the period. Okay? So this way, this entire thing here is connected. I'm going to the dance tonight, said Allie, is one sentence. And this is my quote right here. It's all contained within my quotation marks, set off by that comma, and still connected to said Allie. Question, will you be going to the dance tonight? Nori asked. Same as before, I need that question mark to let me know that it is a question. Still capitalizing the beginning letter. Everything still contained in the quotes. Same for the exclamation though. My ending punctuation is inside, capital letter. Again, the only thing that really changes there is your statement. This is where it could get tricky for you though. This is where you have a quotation being interrupted in the middle. So this is looking at whether or not to use a comma or a period to set that off. So if I said, will you be going, Nori asked, to the dance tonight? Yes, Chloe replied, I'm going if my parents let me. The first sentence, will you be going, Nori asked, to the dance tonight? Will you be going is fine on its own, but that's not my complete thought. My complete question or quote is, will you be going to the dance tonight? So in order to continue that, I need to have a comma here so that this runs fluidly together. Okay? Whereas down here, yes, Chloe replied, I'm going if my parents let me. This can have a period because it doesn't need to be connected. So it just matters if it's a complete sentence, a complete thought, as this is down here where it says, I'm going if my parents let me. This works on its own, doesn't need to be connected to the beginning of that sentence in order for it to make sense. Okay? So that's how you would decide whether or not it was a comma, as in the first instance, or a period in the second. Alright, last but not least, when you have a new speaker, it becomes a new paragraph. So I took the graphic novel picture we had from before, and I turned that into written out dialogue instead of using the speech bubbles. And I added some description just to make our sentences a little more complex. So now it reads, "And why was that?" the cat asked, following her through the dark by candlelight. Coraline resolutely replied, "Because when you're scared but you still do it anyway, that's brave." And that's from the graphic novel version of Coraline by Neil Gaiman. In this case, you have the cat speaking followed by Coraline speaking. When I have a switch in speaker, I need to have a new indented paragraph, even when I'm not necessarily leading off with that quote. So this gives you some ideas on what to do when you have a quote at the end of a sentence, a quote at the beginning, a quote that's being interrupted, or when you have a new speaker, what to do in all of those situations.